Hi everyone, from me, Brent Graham. It's Thursday night, it's 9 o'clock. It's time for the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters. We're going to be talking Six Nations Week 3 tonight, and I'll also be asking my panelists their views on Super Rugby. Just to mention, if there's background noise, it's my generator. Thank you, Eskom. You didn't switch us back on after load shedding, so no power. I know the overseas guys always find this highly amusing what we have to put up with in South Africa. And let's say Joburg in particular, because I think the two gentlemen joining me tonight don't have quite the same problems. It started at the top of the screen. He's wearing his British and Irish Alliance jersey. That's the Undertaker, Hendrik Swart. Hendrik, great to have you back on the show, mate.
How's it, Brent? Yeah, good to be back. Yeah, down here in the Republic of Cape Town, we don't have as much problems with the electricity as you guys have up in Joburg. So yeah, elections coming later this year. People have to do their thing, and hopefully things can be better in the future. But yeah, looking forward to this weekend. Big weekend coming up. Super Rugby. I'm a massive fan of Super Rugby. Even though the South African team still are not in there anymore, I love Super Rugby. And yeah, Six Nations always a good tournament. So yeah, looking forward to this weekend.
Well, we'll definitely touch on Super Rugby as well. And just to mention before I go down to Neil, we did do a special Super Rugby show. I know you popped in from work there at one point there, Hendrik. So, guys, if you did miss that this morning, there is a link in the description box below to catch that show. That was at the Crow Tips, and Nathan, I must say, one of the shrewder punters out there at the moment as well. So really enjoyed that one. Let's go down to the bottom. It's been a while since we've seen him. And Neil, I know you've been hell of a busy at work, but rumor has it you've been preparing for a professional boxing debut as well.
No, Brent, believe it or not, I actually stepped into the boxing ring last Friday. What an experience that was. There was lots of money on the line for that. And I hope I made a couple of the amateur punters proud with the performance in the ring. But looking forward to getting back started with the competition I love. Over the moon to have Super Rugby back. It's always been quite a happy hunting ground for me. So lots of rugby to speak of, some cracking Six Nations. So looking forward to get stuck into this.
And tell me something, I noticed, I know when I think when I say met you over the show and that you were sort of finishing off your studies and that now obviously you're working, you're busier than ever type of thing. Are you seeing is that impacting your punting in the sense of, are you punting less or are you, I know what happens to me sometimes when I'm busy, I don't do as well because I don't tend to do my research. Are you managing to balance it?
No, Brent, to be honest, that's why I've been a bit quiet recently. It's been an absolutely hectic time both balancing the work and the studies, but the studies part's done and dusted. So looking forward to sort of sinking my teeth back into it. I've been sort of a bit lazy with my sort of proper due diligence and all of that. I also feel like the bookies have been a bit smarter than in past years. The prices just seem to be on the money. Maybe that's a bit of lack of research from my side. But as I said, there's always money's being made, and what a weekend to get started with some international rugby and some Super Rugby. So there's definitely money. I've had a good scope and a good check out of the lines, and I've got some cracking punts lined up.
Okay, excellent. Well, let's start with you then. We're going to talk Six Nations first, but I do want to touch on Super Rugby as well while I've got you guys in the studio because I know you both love your Super Rugby. But Neil, we'll start with you. Ireland minus 22.5 against Wales, and we got a points line here of 52.5. Just to mention, price is subject to change, of course, and this was taken probably about an hour before the show started. I got these lines. So what do you like here, Neil?
Sure, Brent. It's a massive handicap for Six Nations, but it probably is quite warranted with the form that Ireland have been. For me, the biggest thing about Ireland is the second half performances that they are able to put up. Even if it's sort of a slow first half, they're sort of itching ahead at the halftime whistle by about sort of 3 to 10 points. You always know that they can turn on the heat in the second half. With Wales very much in a transition phase, not too much experience, but I do like the side that Wales are putting out this week. I like the centre combinations in Tompkins and North, both heaps of experience with Tompkins for Saracens. North obviously 100 plus caps, but so itching for this handicap, probably leaning towards on the plus, but not the biggest punt for me on this game. The bet that's a big standout for me is the points line. I'm going to have a massive stab at that under 52.5. Just reason being for that is I had a look at sort of the head-to-heads for this, and I guess you could say it's Wales in a transition. You can never sort of go too much on past history, but I think only like 2 in the last 30 odd fixtures have seen that line clear. So even in a tight fixture, you know that Gatland will have rallied up the troops for this one. It's an international rugby. There's no bigger stage. So I expect Wales to really come out quite dogged in defence, really just sort of put a lot of pressure over the ball at the breakdown there. So 52.5 is a lot of points. To be honest, if this loses, you can consider yourself an unlucky punter for this one. So for me, this is a 48.5 type line, probably even a 46.5 type line. So I'm getting an extra converted try in the bag here. So that unders has firmly got my interest, and then I also have smaller stakes on the plus as well in this one.
Why do I have the feeling that the unders taker isn't going to take a lot of convincing to join you on that 52.5 line? Henrik, your thoughts on that? I must say, if I could come in, the Ireland team these days is a bit like the New Zealand team of old. You're a little bit nervous going unders because they could always sort of cut loose, but their defense is so good. You might even get a 36-0 Ireland win or a 36-7 Ireland win. So I'm with Neil on this one. I think the unders is the runner here.
Brent, 100% correct with your saying about the defense, because I was actually initially, before I saw the points lines, my thought was unders on Wales points here because Ireland's defense has been really good, and then I saw 14.5 on Wales points, and I went to check the Ireland points. I saw 36, 37 thereabouts. And I said, geez, that's high, eh? So obviously, you can't take, even as well as Ireland plays, I can't take overs on that. Because 40 points in a test, Six Nations game, that's a lot of points. They scored 38 against France and they scored 36 against Italy. They were very good in both those games. But yeah, 52.5 is massive. I couldn't believe that. I would have put a test between Ireland and Wales, I would have put it at 44. 44.5, that's where the line should be. That 52.5 is very, very high. I agree 100% with Neil. That's the bet on this one. I think the handicap is well set. I can't back Wales on the plus away to Ireland. Just the way Ireland have played. Like you said, they are the kind of team that, with the defense, they can beat. The thing is, with if you want to back a minus, the defense is actually the most important part. You don't want a team. Well, you obviously have to score tries, but I look at the defense more than I look at the attacking side of it when I want to back a minus. So with Ireland, with their defense, you want to back the minus, but 22.5 is a lot of points. They will probably beat it, but I think just back the unders on total points here. I think Wales. I don't think they'll score 2 tries. I'll give them 1 try maybe somewhere in the game, but Ireland will be fully switched on and focused for this game. But that 52.5 it stands out like a sore thumb. That is the bet that unders.
Well, Cathal reckons that Wales are going to struggle to beat the handicap, and I tend to agree. But at the end of the day, yeah, I can well see a situation where Ireland beat this handicap and we still get the unders here. And I can tell you with the confidence that both of you two guys have spoken on the unders, I'm prepared to make one call, and that is that come kickoff 52.5 won't be there anymore. I think we'll definitely have come down to probably 3 points on that one. So some nice confident picks there by the guys. Johan Esthuizen joining us as well. We'll get his treble later in the show. Ireland, cap, and unders. Yeah, that's a fair enough call there, I think, as well. Right, let's go on to the next game. Henrik, I'm going to start with you. We've got Scotland at home here in the Calcutta Cup. Scotland minus 4.5 against England. And here we got a points line, probably more what we'd be expecting, 45.5.
Now, Brent, about 10 years ago, England would probably have been minus 7.5, even though the game is in Edinburgh. So yeah, it's amazing how Scotland have come on. They're playing good rugby. But yeah, I don't feel comfortable backing against England on this minus. I would have had this closer to a choice game. Even maybe have England slight favourites, minus 1.5 thereabouts. I think the plus is the way to go here. With the type of rugby Scotland's playing, you want to go overs, but 45.5 is about right, in my opinion. I would have liked the 42 thereabouts and then go overs. Maybe this is the kind of game you have to wait with the points and just, if there's a quiet spell, you wait for 41, 42 about thereabouts, and you will get a few tries in this game. You will get a flurry of points somewhere, 3-pointers, and the way Finn Russell plays, there will always be points for his team and the other team. That's just the type of style he plays, and the team he plays for has to adapt to his style. So there will be points, but So I'm unsure about the points because I think it's well priced. But for me, the plus is the way to go. Yeah.
I must say, very much leaning with you on all of your comments there. In fact, I quite like England to perhaps pull off a minor upset here. But let's see what thoughts on sports things of this one.
Yeah, Brent's tricky fixture just because the game's gone the way in which I'd hoped. I snapped some. I think it was about a week and a half ago. I snapped some Scotland on the board at 9-10. I thought that was sort of slight value, and it's obviously moved out in my favour there. And I don't really like the side that England have picked, but that always makes me a bit nervous. But after watching England over in the Borthwick era, what I've learned is they're a massive unders team. And especially with the way that they've gone, as soon as the team starts picking calm and cool heads in the 9-10 jumpers with Danny Kay, who you can call an over scrum off, but they've picked him for one job, and that's sort of to bring stability in there. And then George Ford just to sort of control the channels there. I have to think that Borthwick's sort of targeting, I guess you could say, a bit of a kicking game, looking for a territory type game. So that's what sort of keeps me a bit nervous on the overs there. It's a type of game that if England go ahead quite early on, if England are ahead at halftime, that the overs should arrive. But if Scotland are sort of controlling the game a bit, then I can't see England sort of racking up too many points. So they don't have too many sort of secret weapons over to fling the ball out wide and all of that. So that's what keeps me a bit tentative on the overs. It's not a type of game that I would go unders in. So I guess you could say leading overs. And then just with the handicap there, I still am of the opinion that Scotland cover the spread. I think that Borthwick's had one too many close games over in the Six Nations and in the World Cup. I just feel like that something's going to have to give. And Scotland have looked impressive every single time they've sort of stepped onto the field. Very unlucky against against the French, not to get the win there. So I just feel like something's going to have to give. Something's going to have to come together for Gregor Townsend and his Chargers. And I look at that Scottish side, and it looks about as settled as we've ever seen a Scottish side before. They're starting to really build up experience and sort of quality scattered throughout the team. They've always struggled over in the forward pack there, but I think they've got some good charges there. So I like the Scots to get the business done in the packed out Murrayfield this weekend.
Right, I'm going to go on to the next game, but just before I ask Neil's opinion on that, our power is evidently back, so my wife's going to do the switch over. I think everything will run smooth and I'll stay here, but if I disappear for a bit, I'll be back. You guys can carry on talking about this game. Neil, we got a big handicap here. France, minus 26.5. They've been underperforming so far in the Six Nations, no doubt about it. Very, very fortunate to beat the Scots. And they're playing against an Italian side that promises a fair bit at times, but never seems to deliver when they really play the bigger teams. What's your thoughts on this one?
Brent, I absolutely love the French, but one thing I've learned is that they absolutely hate big spreads. It's not a case of sort of a team like the All Blacks who aren't scared of beating a big minus. You always look at a big minus when the All Blacks play and you say, geez, I've got to be a bit cautious on that one. But one thing about the French, if it's a 40-point handicap against Tonga, I'd be very nervous backing the minus. If it's 26-point spread against the Italians, once again, very nervous backing that. So I like the Italians here to cover just because the French always get a bit leaky in these sort of, I guess you could say, open type games against a slightly weak opposition here. So I fancy Italy to score quite a few. I think that the French will get a bit of a scare probably in the first 10 to 20 minutes of the fixture. I wouldn't be surprised to see Italy go sort of 10-7 up in the game, and then the French sort of claw it back. So that's a long way back with the 26.5 point spread. I thought Italy were actually quite dogged in their performance against Ireland, but Ireland's defense is absolutely resolute. So that's why it's sort of the scoreline blew out a bit there. They just went over to get past the Irish there. French aren't quite the same. They're sort of prone to lapses of concentration and throwing the ball around from time to time here. So I quite like the overs in this game. It's not the biggest player for me. Stronger fancy on the plus in this one.
Right, nice thoughts there from Neil. And as Neil was talking there, Henrik, I started thinking, is this another chance for Italy overs? It's going to be a similar quote, I guess, around about 13.5 or so. To the one I can't remember if you were on board, but I was certainly on board Italy overs against Ireland where they couldn't score a point. But I take Neil's point there. This is a very different team that they play now, and this could be more of a game where Italy get their chances.
Brent, I was definitely on Italy overs in that Ireland game. I was on the show on the Thursday, and it was my best bet. I was very confident on Italy overs, and they were terrible. They were probably not that bad. It was more Ireland good, and like Neil said, Ireland's defense was so good because I remember on the show we spoke about Italy being a more positive team these days, and they do score points, and they couldn't score a point against Ireland. So, yeah, I came into this Six Nations very confident on France, but obviously I underestimated Ireland badly. Ireland, they are by far the best team in the tournament, and they should probably easily win this. So on this game, Italy burned me last time, but I'm gonna give them another chance. I think they can score a few points here. The points line on Italy points 13 and a half, and then Italy tries 1.5. Same odds on both. So I think the tries is the better one, because if they're going to score more than 13 points, they probably have to score 2 tries. And they can score 2 tries and not get to 13. So I like the over 1.5 tries at 17 to 20 on Italy. And I agree with the plus is the way to go as well. And I saw Admiral commenting there on France points. I see that's about 41 and a half, and that is a lot of points for France, even though they're playing at home. Ireland at home could only score 36 against Italy. They did have quite a few disallowed tries.
Yeah,
but the French, as good as they can be, they do go missing during games. Even if when they're playing at their best, for periods of the game they do go missing. So 41 and a half, that's a lot of points for France. And this is a Italy team that is much improved. They played really well against England, and they could have beaten England in that first game, and they lost 36-0 against Italy. So I'm 100% in Italy's camp here. You just have to decide what you want, how you want to back Italy. You want to back the unders on France, you want to back Italy points, you want to back the plus. I think the best one is Italy over 1.5 tries. I think that's the bet on this game.
Right. Well, Chris is saying he doesn't expect a lot of points. Unders is the bet for him there. Mark Dumpy saying he reckons the French coach, he's heard the French coach could be on a borrowed time. That could well be possible. Gents, That is the Six Nations. But before we get into the best bets for the weekend, I want to run through the Super Rugby fixtures and get your guys, if you fancy anything on the games. The only thing I do want to say is I'm going to bring up the prices from this morning, and I know some of them have probably shifted a bit. So ignore the handicaps that I'm putting here, and if necessary the points, and just give me your views on it. We'll start with you, Henrik. Chiefs up against the Crusaders. The handicap I think is fairly stable at about 6.5.
I mean, this has actually shifted out from earlier in the week. I think the Chiefs were about 4.5, maybe 3.5 if you shopped around. And I do like the Chiefs here. Crusaders, I saw a comment from Brent Graham on the forum saying that the Crusaders has a superior pack in his opinion, and they do. It looks quite good, but I just like this Chiefs side, and I think without Rob Razor, the Crusaders are gonna struggle a bit. And they've lost Richie Mwanga, who's a talisman for them, and now they've lost Will Jordan as well, who's about at least 7 points in a game. He just creates a try from nowhere. So I think the Chiefs minus is the way to go. If you think that the Crusaders can stay in this, I think the Chiefs 1-12 is the bet. I don't think the Crusaders will win the game. If you think they'll stay in it, take the 1-12 Chiefs. But I think the Chiefs minus the bet, and I like Crusaders unders as well. These New Zealand derbies, they are quite low scoring. Even though the New Zealand teams, they can score brilliant tries, but somehow when they play against each other, it's not that many points. So I like the under 22.5 on the Crusaders here.
Chris coming in and saying he's been buried many times on Super Rugby opening weekend. But what it does strike me about Super Rugby is how excited the South African punters are for Super Rugby. I mean, I've just seen a general energy, and the fact is it's a great tournament to watch. And
love it.
The fact is, I think it's only punters. I don't think there's a single rugby fan I mentioned on this morning show. I don't think any normal fan watches Super Rugby from South Africa anymore. They focus on URC. But us punters, Neil, we love Super Rugby. And are you as excited as Henrik and I are for this to get going?
No, absolutely, Brent. There's no better reason than calling in a sick day on a Friday morning and cancelling that 9 o'clock meeting than some fantastic New Zealand Super Rugby. So you know what I'm going to be doing on Friday morning. No, it's over the moon to have it back. And I do have a couple angles on this. Just Brent, to touch on the outright. I think that the Hurricanes at 17-2 is looking rather big. And the reason I say that is because the Crusaders aren't sort of set favourites. Anytime Super Rugby's kicked off and you're taking a long shot, it's always a bit dangerous with the way that the Crusaders play, because you sort of know that in the back of your mind that they're always a good shot at winning the comp. First time in a while that the Crusaders, I don't think, are good value. I quite like the Hurricane side and the squad that they have at their disposal. So I think that's some cracking value. Other than that, I think the Blues at 4-1 look a good shout. Chiefs are deserved favourites, but they always seem to bottle it. So I just don't know how they'll be able to sort of keep the momentum going. Also, the one thing, I don't think that Waikato is the biggest sort of fortress as a home ground. In me, that's win the Super Rugby comp. But getting into the Chiefs Crusaders game here, Chiefs probably deserve it, 6.5 favourites. But one thing I've learned is, similar to the All Blacks, you just never ever take on the Crusaders as underdogs. You're just asking for trouble here. So I'm going to stay away from the handicap. But what I do like is that 50.5. I'm going to take a stab on the unders here. It might seem like a bit of a strange call, but the dew picks up over in Waikato. The wind sort of picks up as well. And once the cowbells start ringing, there's a lot of pressure on both sides. So I can expect sort of a bit of an error-strewn game, especially first game of Super Rugby here. Crusaders, as Hendrik mentioned, don't have Will Jordan, so that's an extra 7 points that you get in the bag for the unders here. So I expect a couple of bit of nervy plays from the Chiefs and the Crusaders here. Maybe a couple of sort of shots at goal. Damien McKenzie isn't I wouldn't say he's the biggest sharpshooter. You can't shoot them from 50 meters out. You could probably shoot them from 40 meters within range. So that's sort of my thoughts on the opening game. So tentative call. I won't go too big. I'll probably look to enjoy the first game. The 50.5 on the unders is screaming out to me.
Yeah, I can see this being one of Hendrik's famous game of two halves, where we get quite a few points in the first half. Then, as you say, Neil, the dew sort of settles in and perhaps becomes more of an arm wrestle after that. Let's stick with you then. We go Rebels. I know that the line has moved from 8.5 to 6.5 on the Rebels. It may have moved further. As I say, I haven't checked that against the Brumbies. And quite a high points line here at 56.5 Neil.
Yeah, Brent, it's a bit strange. You would have thought that a couple of years ago the Rebels, Brumbies, and the Chiefs Crusaders points line would have been swapped around. But that's just, I guess, how Super Rugby's evolved. What Super Rugby has gone and said is that they are going to sort of promote quite positive rugby. They've introduced that sort of new offside line where I'm not too sure if you're familiar, but I think over in the Six Nations last season, once the person who kicked the ball had gone 5 meters, everyone was clear on side. But in Super Rugby, the person has to get past the last man in order for everyone to play on side. So that sort of just promotes a bit more attacking rugby. But 56.5 in Melbourne, it's usually quite hot and humid there. I have to blindly take an unders here. Even though how good Brumbies are at the set piece and all of that, they often turn down the 3 points here. But I do sort of like the team that the Rebels have put out. It's obviously a bit of motivation for the Rebels, thinking that they're probably potentially going to be going under last season of Super Rugby, heading into voluntary administration there. So tentative call. This isn't sort of the one I've been eyeing out on the weekend, but tentative call on the Rebels plus and both on the under 56.5 here.
Undertaker, what are your thoughts?
Brent, this is a game that I don't really have a strong feeling on. I'm a big fan of Carter Gordon, as you know, and I'm a fan of the Brumbies, but the Brumbies, in my opinion, I like them at home. So I'm waiting for the Brumbies to play at home to back them. And the Aussie Derbies, they have been quite high scoring lately, as low scoring as they used to be about 10 years or so ago. I have no feeling on this one, Brent. No bet for me.
Fair enough, but we'll stick with you to see what you got on the next game. There had the money for the Force. It was plus 12.5, plus 10.5 this morning when I looked at the prices. You can tell me if there's been any further movement. They're playing against the Hurricanes, who obviously the New Zealand team, the favourites here, and Neil has highlighted as a possible long-term prospect. What are your thoughts here, Henrik?
Brent, I like this Hurricanes team, and I like the bench especially. Geez, they've got a brilliant bench. You've got Braden Yose, Cam Roygard, Rayasi, Tyrell Lomax. They've got a packed bench here. So I like the minus on the Hurricanes, and I think that this game might have points as well. Even though it's 57.5, I can easily see this game having 70 points. But the minus on the Hurricanes, and then in running, you have to have a look. If you get a price on the Hurricanes, if the Force go in front early or half time, just back the Hurricanes blindly on the minus, because I think that bench of the Hurricanes is stacked. So they're definitely going to make an impact in the second half.
So I quickly just did a thing on Good for the Game. We've got the Super Rugby show up there. And then I just went, having listened to the panel this morning on that, I went and did all my bets. And Kirky in the live chat said Cam Roygaard last try. And I was quite surprised to see 22-1 on Cam for the last try, because he is going to come off the bench and he must have a cracking chance. I don't know if that's widespread or not. It was with World Sports Betting, so we'll look around. But if that price is available all over the place, I'd say it's going to definitely get some interest at that price, eh?
No, he loves a try, and any time try score on him is probably you're probably gonna get a good price as well, because he's not starting, but he loves a try. He's so strong, and he's like a big 9. You know he's going to go for that line, because he's got a reputation now for scoring tries. So he has to hold up that reputation. So he's going to go for the try.
Right, Neil, what do you think on this game?
No, Brent, I love that Cam Roygaard at 22-1. That should be at least sort of a 6-1, 8-1. So I think that's some cracking value if you can get that. And then just on this game, I like Hurricanes to cover the spread here. It's a quality 4 side as far as 4 sides go, but this is about as good as the Hurricanes have fielded in the last 3 seasons of Super Rugby. To be honest, I really think that they are going to be pushing contenders for this competition. I can just see them absolutely smacking the force, especially up front. They've got so many danger men out wide. If you can get a Hurricanes second half handicap, I guess 10.5, so you probably get minus 4.5 or 5.5. I think it's a cracking play. I just got to look at the try line, and it's sitting at 7.5 tries. That's the same try line as the Ireland Wales game. So that just looks a bit ludicrous to me. So I'm happy to take a stab at the overs on tries there. So I just think that Hurricanes have to be full value for this one. They're going to love the dry conditions over in Perth for a sort of an afternoon type fixture here. Late early evening type fixture. So yeah, I just think that Hurricanes. I'm not too sure why the money's coming for the force here. I've got full value. I've taken minus 7.5 Hurricanes, minus 8.5, and minus 9.5. So my money's straight in on the Hurricanes in this one.
Right, lots of confidence there on the Hurricanes. I'm pleased I chatted to you guys, because there's been a lot of sentiment towards the force, but I'm totally hearing what you're saying. I do like the look of that Hurricanes bench as well. We'll stay with you, Neil, for the next game, and that's Blues. Now, I know this handicap this was this morning. I've seen minus 19.5, but about an hour ago, there was still some minus 17 on offer when I did the article on Good for the Game against the Drua, and we got a points line here of 57.5. Where's thoughts on sports money going on this one?
Yeah, Brent, I was quite surprised, and it was a bit of ignorance on my side to see a points line of in the 50s for this game. I was expecting sort of a 64.5 type points line, especially with an afternoon game over, and I think it's in Mount Ranganui for this. It's not over in Auckland. So I quite like the Blues. I've taken some Blues over 37.5 and Blues over 38.5. I do like the Blues to cover the spread as well in this one, but if I just see points in this one, I'd rather just play it safe and take the Blues. The Blues have quite a strong preseason. I don't always love to see Harry Plummer at 12, but that's sort of a curse I can't forgive for this one. So for me, full value on the overs and Blues total points here.
Right. Well, I may as well have been just nodding my head furiously there, because totally in agreement with you on that one. And let's see if the Undertaker's going to join us. Yeah,
Brent, the game is in Thangarai. I'm not sure whether I pronounced that right. Wangarai, Thangarai. But yeah, it's afternoon kickoff. The weather is perfect over there. So, and with the Drua, you will be points. Yeah, I know you guys love the Blues. I'm a Blues fan as well. I took some plus 16.5 Drua early in the week, and then I saw it going out, and I took some plus 18.5. I'm going to take some plus 19.5 as well. I think the Drua is going to stay in this game. I like the Drua. But obviously the points is the better bet here. So I'm going to be on the handicap and a plus on the draw. I think that's the bet on the handicap. But 57.5 is too low in this game. This game is going to have 1 million points. The Blues are going to score. Draw is going to score. 57.5. I'm really surprised it's that low. And it sounds strange for a point line close to 60 to call it low, but this is low for this kind of game. So this is one of the better Super Rugby bets, in my opinion, for this weekend. That over 57.5. I would have put it at 62.5, and then I would have taken overs as well. I would have been confident on over 62.5. So over 57.5 is a great bet in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to call this line to move. Absolutely no doubt about it, with the confidence you gents are showing on that one. We've got 2 Super Rugby games to get through. The Highlanders, plenty of money for them. I think Nathan on this morning show said he got with one of his bookies over there. He actually is in New Zealand. I think he bets in the UK, and that he managed to get 8.5. And he said the line didn't move, so he took some more minus 8.5. I think locally it probably opened about 10.5, and it's gone to 12.5. So, Henrik, what do you think of this one? Here we do have a points line of 60.5.
Yeah, Brent, I think the Islanders minus is the way to go here. I would have put this one 5 points higher even. I think this should move a bit as well. Pacifica, they have lost a lot of players. They lost Liva Amua, who were brilliant last year to them. Christian Lelefano is not playing this week. I read somewhere that they lost something like 20 players from their squad. And the Islanders, they've got quite a good squad. They've got a good coach now. So I think the minus is the way to go here. This also looks like a game to go over some points. It's under the roof, obviously, in Dunedin. But I'll probably just take Highlanders points. What's the Highlanders points? Let me see, 36.5. Islanders will score 40 plus here against Pacifica. Pacifica games, like the Drua games, are always very high scoring, positive teams. They like throwing the ball around. I like the minus a lot. I think the minus is actually a better bet than the over 36.5 Highlanders points. Yeah, minus 12.5 is the way to go here.
I must say, if I was excited by Super Rugby at the start of the show, I can't wait for the action to begin now. In fact, I've got a couple of meetings tomorrow morning, and fortunately not for this game, but I'm already thinking of phoning in sick for those as well, so I can watch a bit of rugger. Neil, are you also in the Highlanders camp here?
Yeah, Brent, this was one of my stronger fancies. I think it opened up at 10.5. I snapped some 10.5, 11.5, had another nibble, and 12.5. Had the final crack of this. The points line, I'm a little bit tentative. Obviously, Dunedin's a closed stadium, but the Zoo's been a bit of an underground. I'm not too sure if it's sort of the way that the Highlanders have played recently. They just haven't been too strong there. It's been a bit of a trap for overs punters recently. Another thing, I've made an absolute fortune in the NPC from backing unders on Otago. They've always just seemed to produce these loose forwards that are just absolute menaces over the ball there. So that's sort of where my tentativeness does lie. But you can't be taking sort of unders on Pacific, even if the line's at 65.5 here. So I'll let the points fly on this one, and I just think that there's full value on the unders here. I've heard whispers that the Highlanders are sort of hoping for quite a positive season this year. So I like that the squad that they have put out for this fixture. So hoping for a bit of a turnaround in the fortunes for the Highlanders this year in Super Rugby. It's been a lean couple of years for them, especially after sort of the heroics that Lima Sipawang and Aaron Smith used to produce over in the 2015 and the 2016 season. So looking for a bit of a stronger Highlanders side this year. So tentative call, leaving the points alone. I think that there's a lot more value elsewhere, but I'm happy to take the minus on this one.
Well, I can tell you that I might be getting my newsletter out a bit earlier than normal, because I might want to get up before some of these Super Rugby games to get them into the accumulator, or possibly even best bet. If you're not subscribed yet, it does go out normally on a Friday. I sometimes get a bit under pressure and it goes on a Saturday, but I can tell you this one will be out on a Saturday, and there's a link in the description box below. We've got one more game to cover. And Henrik, I'm going to give you first. Oh, sorry, I brought up the wrong game there. I'm going to give you first crack at this game. It's the Aussie Derby. It's the Reds against the Waratahs. We've got a points line of 49.5 in Brisbane, and a handicap of minus 5.5.
Yeah, Brent, I caught the last bit of your show this morning, and you referred to this as like quite a big, historically big derby between Queensland and New South Wales. Always been a big game. And I remember a few years ago, you were on that, Brent. I'm talking about 15 years ago now, where this was a big unders game, and I followed you. I remember following you on the unders here when we still had spreads, and there was a game where I hit the max, like a max on the win with going unders on shared numbers here. It was such a cagey game, and obviously the style the Aussie teams play has changed the last few years, but I just feel that 49.5, that just feels high. In Brisbane, where you get the humidity, and there's a bit of rain about as well, so it's going to be hot, and there will be rain about. So I think the 49.5 unders is the bet here on this one. On the handicap, it's tough. I don't want to back the Waratahs because I don't think that they are a team to back this year. I want to back the Reds, but the 5.5, I just have a feeling you might get the late penalty for the Waratahs to get a losing bonus point, that type of game, and you might lose out on a minus 5.5. So I think the safer bet here is the 49.5 unless, or alternatively look for the best total tries bet and take unders on that. But I'm not strong in this game, Brent. In my opinion, just the unders on that one, but not a strong one on this one.
A lot will depend what sort of mood I am in going into this game. Am I chasing or am I well clear? Because I'm certainly going to be involved in the earlier games. Finish us off here, Neil, on this game.
No, Brent, this fixture opened up, I think it was at 55, 56.5 on the points, and I immediately thought that was an unders play, but unfortunately I didn't manage to get on. I was a little bit cautious. But there's no way I'm at 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning that I'm going to be hoping for sort of negative rugby from two Australian sides. So I can't be on the unders in this fixture. I just think 49.5. Both teams' first game, I can see a bit of sort of sloppy defense. Both teams wanting to stake a point, play sort of a bit of loose rugby. One thing about the Brisbane turf is, the humidity is a big factor, but it's an exceptionally wide field. So there's always a bit of space on the outsides, and that's one thing I've always been quite conscious of when betting in Brisbane. Red sort of going under a bit of a change. Waratahs too. I just think that 49.5 does seem a touch low for this. As Henrik mentioned, I can definitely see the Waratahs staying in this fixture, slotting over a couple of threes. I like the team that they put out. There's enough attacking opportunities there. Last season for Mark Nawanga-Tuwase over in rugby union, so I expect him to hopefully jot down, continue his World Cup form here. So Waratahs with heaps of sort of attacking talent. 49.5. I'm sorry, that just looks a couple of points too low for me. This is a 53.5 point fixture. So happy to side with the overs here, but once again, a lot more confidence in the other games.
Yeah, I think both of you in the same camp in the sense that there are the bigger bets, bigger fish to fry this weekend, that's for sure. We've got to the end there, so let's get into best bets. And Neil, I'm going to ask you, give your Six Nations, say best bet, and then feel free to throw in a Super Rugby one or two as well.
Yeah, Brent, the best bets, and I'm always tentative to say that because it seems like all the stars are aligned, is that unders in the Wales Island games. It's always a bit nerve-wracking when every punter and his granny is on the same bet here. But I think that just deserves to be taken. Even if it loses, it's one of those bets that I'm more than happy to lose because I'll take it 9 times out of 10, and it'll probably win 9 times out of 10. So definitely that one sticks out in the Six Nations. Then over in Super Rugby, it's sure. I like that. I like that Highlanders minus. That sticks out quite strongly for me. But definitely the best bet has to be that overs in the Blues trip. You're getting a mid 50s line in sort of daytime conditions, perfect conditions, and an afternoon kickoff for the Blues against a team which likes to chuck the ball around. That just deserves to be punished. So 2 main plays for me this weekend.
Excellent. I can see one of those creeping into the best bets there, no doubt about it. Henrik, what is your best bets for the weekend?
Brent, much the same as Neil. I like that under 52.5 in Ireland versus Wales. I think that bet has to be made this evening. I think that will come down. Tomorrow morning it will be 50.5. It will come down. That just feels right. It just type of game it's going to be historically between those two sides. You see a game where 46.5, you will be nervous either way of the side. So yeah, I think under 52.5. That in Six Nations, that's my bet, and overall, even Super Rugby as well. I think that's the best bet of the weekend. I like the Italy over 1.5 tries as well. I think Italy they will try and bounce back, obviously. So yeah, I'm looking for Italy over 1.5 tries. Super Rugby, my best is probably the Blues overs. Like Neil also say, he likes that as well. The Blues game, total overs. I won't just take the Blues because I think the draw will contribute as well. And then the Islanders minus, and I like the Crusaders unders as well. So that, in Super Rugby, that's my 3 I like. But yeah, that Ireland Wales unders, that just feels right.
Yeah, there's certainly so much to look forward to this weekend. I was just laughing to myself a bit when Neil said, even if it loses, he'll know that he's taken the right bet. And I think any punter who's been around for a while will agree with you. I mean, if you take a bet and the market moves in your favor and you lose, you say, well, you know what? More often than not, I'm going to win those. But I can tell you, I tried explaining that to my wife a couple of times, and she doesn't accept that logic one little bit. But I certainly know exactly what Neil's talking about with that one. But anyway, gents, that brings us to the end of the show. Thanks very much. We got through a lot of games there in 40 minutes. I had my power come back on, which is great news as well. And just to the guys in the live chat, thanks very much. I'll just end off by bringing up Johan Esthuizen's treble. I didn't talk it through. Ireland, Wales under 52.5. Highlanders minus 12.5. Kane's team's point over 33.5. I don't think any of the guys here are going to argue too hard with you on that one, Johan. And then, Henrik, great to have you back on the show. And enjoy the weekend. You're not going fishing or something? I imagine this is all about rugby this weekend.
I'm actually going fishing, Brent. Yeah, so it's unfortunately, the club I'm in, our dates get set way in advance. So yeah, I'm gonna miss. Hopefully, the boss is not watching the show. I'm gonna watch a few Super Rugby games tomorrow morning while I'm working, whatever. But yeah, the rest of the weekend I'm going fishing.
Excellent. And then to Neil, great having you back on again. And any truth to the rumors that there's a big match boxing bout against the Oracle coming up in a few months? So I reckon we could hype that one up, eh?
No, Brent, I'll be more than happy to lay a couple of wagers for that. Even if you say that the wrong favourite's been published in that, I'm more than happy to take the money from the punters there. So yeah, all good fun, but yeah, looking forward to it.
As long as they don't call it rubbish v rubbish, as the Oracle likes to call it. But excellent, guys. Been great chatting to you both. Neil, good to have you on again after a while. And hopefully, if your time permits, we'll have you on again over the coming weeks as well. But thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll be back probably Thursday morning with a Super Rugby show. And Thursday night, I don't know if there's URC next week, probably just Six Nations. And we'll touch on the Super Rugby again. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.